Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back. In this video, we're looking at this Monday MLB slate. We have 6 games on tap for DraftKings today, so let's get started. As always, appreciate it if you guys hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. We're down to mainly baseball being the main sport right now with NBA in the conference finals, so just have a couple of showdowns for NBA now. No more full slates, which will be disappointing, but still got baseball, and then very soon we'll have football, which is coming up, and that's always the most fun DFS sport just in terms of the prize pools. So let's get into the video. We have a nice 6 game slate today. Looking at the totals and lineups today, there's the Houston Astros jump off the page. I believe their total has crept up. It's about 6 runs now. They're the only team with above a 5-run total today, and they are facing off against Keegan Aiken, a lefty. Good ballpark upgrade going into Camden Yards, and they are dealing with some injuries, but that makes a couple of their players just look really good in terms of value. You can go with McCormick at only $3,100 in your outfield spot. Toro's been very good third baseman option. Even if he bats seventh, he's cheap enough, barely above the minimum to pay off. And then Altuve, we know he mashes lefties. Gurriel's great against lefties. Correa's right there. So you have to like the Astros. They are the top stack of the day. Other teams that look appealing to stack is this Reds and Twins game. We have Nick Castellanos, only $4,500 facing off against a lefty, so that looks like a great play right out of the gates. Suarez, always good against lefties, even though he's been awful this year in terms of batting average. And then on the Twins side, they got Buxton back. This is his third game back. He's very cheap still at 48. He should be quickly go back up to like high fives, maybe low 6K range. And then we can look to some Brewers and Diamondbacks here, especially Ketel Marte at $4,900. He's been great back from his injury. You can go Yelich on the other side. You can go with a couple of cheap guys at the bottom of the order here. Jackie Bradley's only $2,700. And then maybe if you wanted to go with like a Christian Walker as your first base option, he's pretty affordable. And that's the main teams to look at. If you wanted to go with a couple of one-offs here on the Cubs side, I don't hate that, but those are the main teams that look appealing. Back on DraftKings, pitching-wise, we have only a couple of top-end pitchers. Darvish is the ace of the day. He's 10-2, but he gets a tough matchup against the Dodgers. He's faced them already this season twice. He's been very good in both appearances, averaging almost 30 fantasy points. He's at home where he has been very good this year as well, so I will side with Darvish on a slate that doesn't have a lot of elite options. I'd rather go Darvish in a tough matchup than go with Tyler Mahle, go with Montas, go with like Urías, who's also in play though. And then for my SP2, looking at like a Kyle Gibson at only 63. If you remember, he got absolutely lit up on that opening day start, but besides that, he's been very consistent. Gets you in the teens, upside is in the 20s. The matchup isn't great against Oakland. They are a pretty good offense, but looking at Gibson's numbers at home this year, 0.96 ERA, he's been very consistent. He's not a great strikeout pitcher, but at only $6,300, he does enough to hit value. He goes over 100 pitches at times if he's pitching well. And there are some Ks in this A's lineup. So those are the two pitchers that I'm looking to target just because it allows me to pay up for some of the expensive bats that I want. And speaking of some of the bats here, I think the first guy I would plug in is probably Castellanos against a lefty, J.A. Happ. Looking at Nick Castellanos' numbers, this year he hasn't slowed down at all against lefties. 351 average, 4 bombs in just 57 at-bats. That gives him a 298 ISO and a 649 slugging percentage. He's been awesome for the Reds all season, super consistent, hits for high average, hits for power, and I don't expect him to strike out very much against lefties. Going to a second base option, you can go Altuve if you wanted to. He's 55. He is expensive, but if you go Gibson as your SP2, it's pretty easy to get to a guy like Altuve. He's been very good against lefties his entire career. He's been good recently for the Astros as well. In his last 10 games, he's batting north of 310 with 6 home runs during that stretch. So he's hitting for power right now. He is very expensive, but the Astros are hands down the top team to target today. So you best believe I'll be stacking some of them up. Over at third base, you can go Suarez, or you can even go with like Toro, who's super cheap at only $2,100. He's been great filling in for some of the injuries on the Astros right now. He had a 4-hit game last night, had a 2-hit game a couple days ago. He has a little bit of pop, but really hits for high average. Only has 1 strikeout and 23 at-bats, so he's really going to put the ball in play, which is a great, especially as a cheap hitter. So I gotta like Toro as a value play at only $3,100. And then back to the outfield, I'll go Byron Buxton just because he's only $4,800. He's affordable considering how good he's been all season. He's finally back from injury. He was north of 6K. And now because he's just coming back, we're getting him at like a $1,000 to like a $1,300 to $1,500 discount right now. I will jump on that price tag against Molly, who's been good for the Reds this year, but Buxton has been just unbelievable. Even if he doesn't get a hit, if he happens to get a walk, he can steal bases, hits for power. And on the season, he has not been striking out as much as he did in years past. Striking out a little bit under 25%, but he's been really making a lot of hard contact, and we know he has a ton of pop. So still leads you with north of 4K left, so plenty of salary left to fill out this lineup. But I like the build of it, going with a couple of with one ace pitcher and then one pitcher that gives you some upside. And then the Astros just look very good today. And then a couple of power bats in the outfield against Castellanos against a lefty, which is super appealing. And then Buxton at home has just been awesome this entire season. So that's it for the DraftKings side. Let's talk about FanDuel. All right, on this FanDuel side here, pitching-wise, we can look to a Darvish if you wanted to at $10,000. If you wanted to go to a cheaper option here, you could look to taking a shot on Gibson at $7,900 and then just paying up for some of your bats here. But I think you can make it work going Darvish as your pitcher on FanDuel just because there are some cheap Astros to plug in. There's some cheap hitters on some other teams like the Brewers that we can look to. So I think I'd still go with Darvish, but I would think you could make an argument to go Gibson. And then going with some of the bats here, Toro, $2,000 as your third baseman. Probably will bat like 7th in the order today. Maybe bumps up to 6th because he had a great game last night. Either way, min price against a lefty is going to be appealing. I still want to get to Castellanos against a lefty because he mashes lefties. He's been great for the Reds, and they do get a ballpark downgrade going to Minnesota, but I think I'd still look to a couple of these power hitters on the Reds against Hap. Looking over another Houston Astro player, McCormick is appealing on FanDuel at only $2,400. Allows you to pay up for Darvish if you wanted to. Probably will bat he's been batting. There's a chance he bats second in the lineup today against a lefty. He has 8 home runs on the season in limited playing time, so he definitely has some pop here. Filling in for like an injured Kyle Tucker, I believe. So go back to McCormick here. And then last but not least here, if you needed another guy to plug in, maybe if you can go with Buxton here. See how much that leaves you. Even going Buxton, it still leaves you with almost 3,000 left. So I think that's kind of the route I want to go. Still get you a couple of power hitters with Castellanos and Buxton, and then go with a couple of cheap Astros. And then maybe you can still plug in like a Gurriel or maybe even an Altuve if you wanted to. But that's it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. Best of luck today. I'll catch you all next time.